Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We're really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this one.
So let's just jump right in because I want to start with a scenario that, well, it might sound a little too familiar to you.
I'm sure it will.
Right. So think about a time you tried to learn a new physical skill. Maybe a golf swing or a tennis serve or even just like proper running form.
Right, the classics.
Yeah, exactly. You stand in front of the mirror, you lock in the posture, your coach or, some YouTube video told you was the quote-unquote perfect form.
And you just drill it.
You drill it until it feels like second nature. But what if I told you that in a high-speed, explosive, athletic scenario, the way you think your body is moving is actually a complete biological illusion?
It's wild to think about.
It is. What if the perfect form you've been, meticulously drilling into your muscle memory is actually the exact mechanism holding you back from reacting at elite speeds?
It's a jarring realization for a lot of athletes. I mean, we naturally view athletic movement through this lens of architectural blueprints.
Like insert tab A into slot B kind of stuff.
Exactly. We want clear, visible instructions. Stand here, rotate this, extend that arm. But when we transition into the realm of ultra-high velocity sports, the body it stops behaving like a compliant machine.
It has its own agenda.
Very much so. It starts behaving like a survivalist. It makes these split-second neurological decisions to protect itself, often entirely without our conscious permission.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is a really forensic biomechanical breakdown of one of the fastest, most violently explosive sports on Earth.
Badminton.
Badminton, yeah. We've got our hands on a remarkably technical source document today. It's essentially this deep, intricate dialogue mapping out the body mechanics, spatial alignment, and joint physics required to basically just survive on a professional court.
It's a fascinating text.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we're going to decode the secret physical logic behind how the human body generates power. We'll be looking specifically at overhead strikes.
Right, contrasting the heavy, what we call the full smash, with the rapid stick smash.
Yeah, and we're going to discover why our bodies instinctively seek out certain physical alignments, even if those alignments secretly, sabotage our next move.
And as we navigate this, I really want you, the listener, to sort of set aside the equipment.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, today is not about the racket or, the tension of the strings or the grip. It is an exploration of why the human anatomy demands specific three-dimensional geometric spaces to generate explosive force.
Right.
And we're looking at the incredibly complex physiological negotiations that happen just to prevent our joints from literally tearing themselves apart in the process.
I am so ready for this. The source text dives straight into the deep end by just completely upending what we assume about racket sports.
It really does.
It starts by looking at overhead strikes, but it doesn't measure them by, racket speed or how high the player jumps.
No, it uses a much more specific metric.
Right. It categorizes the difference between a heavy, traditional full smash and a fast-paced stick smash, using a metric I find, frankly, fascinating. It looks entirely at where the player's chest and belly button are pointing at the exact millisecond of impact.
The belly button compass.
Yes. Let's call it the belly button compass.
It's a highly effective conceptual tool, actually. To understand why this matters, we kind of need to establish a baseline with the traditional full smash.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So this is the shot that makes the highlight reels. When you observe a player executing a full smash, you are watching the deployment of a complete kinetic chain.
Like a domino effect through the body.
Exactly. In the preparation phase, the fundamental instruction is to turn the body entirely sideways to the net. So the non-dominant shoulder points at the target, and the racket shoulder is pulled as far back as physically possible.
So you're winding up, you're storing all this potential energy in the legs, the hips, the core. It's like pulling back the string on a heavy longbow.
That's the perfect visual, actually. That's what we are taught to aim for. But the critical data point in our source material focuses on the actual microsecond of impact.
The moment of truth.
Right. At the exact moment the racket connects with the shuttlecock, the player is no longer sideways.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The mechanism of the full smash requires pushing off that dominant back foot, violently rotating the hips, and whipping the entire torso forward.
Oh, I see.
So according to your belly button compass at impact, the chest and the stomach are actually facing almost perfectly forward, square to the net.
Right, because you've taken all that energy you stored up in the side stance and just unleashed it forward. So the belly button starts by pointing at the side wall, but finishes by pointing right at the opponent.
Exactly.
That tracks with everything I know about sports. I mean,
Yeah.
a baseball pitcher winds up sideways and finishes facing the batter.
Right, it's universal.
But then, the source material brings in the stick smash. And it divides this strike into two distinct scenarios based on a concept that seems almost unfair.
You're talking about the time constraint.
Yeah, the amount of time the player has to react.
Well, time is the absolute governor of biomechanics, right? It totally dictates what physiological pathways are even available to you.
Makes sense.
So in an active stick smash scenario, meaning the player has anticipated the shot and has at least a brief window of time, they still initiate that familiar slight sideways stance.
Little turn.
Yeah. Part of this is deceptive, right? Signaling to the opponent that a massive full smash might be coming. But because the objective here is a rapid, steep, downward trajectory rather than sheer brute force, they actually abort the massive full-body rotation.
Wait, so they don't whip the torso all the way around?
No, they don't. They meet the shuttle in a half sideways, roughly 45-degree posture, or sometimes almost entirely front-facing.
Huh.
So the power generation shifts away from the big muscles, the hips and torso, and relies primarily on forearm pronation.
Which is the twisting motion, right?
Right, the rapid and ordered twisting of the forearm, and combined with that is a violent pinching of the fingers on the racket grip.
Okay, I can visualize that. It's like
Yeah.
a truncated swing for a much faster response.
Exactly.
But the text doesn't stop there. It outlines a passive or ultra-fast scenario. So picture like high-level doubles, where the shuttle is just screaming back and forth flat over the net.
The absolute fastest rallies.
Yeah. The text claims that in this scenario, the player literally has zero time to turn their body at all.
None whatsoever.
They execute the strike completely front-facing. Chest to the net, belly button to the net, from the moment the shuttle is hit toward them to the moment they hit it back.
It's purely reactive.
They might just jump straight up, relying entirely on locking their upper arm and snapping the forearm. And this is where I really have to pause and push back.
Go ahead.
Because isn't turning sideways the fundamental, unbreakable law of generating power in a racket sport?
Yeah.
If you are just standing there, squared up to the net, how are you generating any lethality?
It feels wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm struggling to picture how that doesn't just result in a really weak defensive swat.
Well, you're touching on a cognitive bias that trips up countless intermediate athletes. We are deeply conditioned by our physical environment to believe that significant power can only be generated by mass multiplied by rotation.
Right. Big wind-up, big hit.
But we have to look closer at the specific physics of the objects we are interacting with. The source text explains that the full smash relies on what it calls a gravity moment.
A gravity moment, okay.
Yeah. You are recruiting the mass of your entire body, elevating it, and violently hurling it forward.
It's like throwing a shot put, right? You can't just stand flat-footed, facing forward, and push a heavy iron ball with just your triceps.
It's blow your elbow out.
Exactly, and it would barely go a few feet.
That's exactly the right parallel. A heavy object requires the recruitment of the body's largest muscle groups, the glutes, the quads, the lats.
Right.
But we have to remember the physical properties of a badminton shuttlecock. Do you know how much it weighs?
It's pretty light, a few grams.
It weighs approximately 5 grams.
Oh, wow.
It is incredibly light, but highly aerodynamic. It does not require a massive gravity moment to accelerate. Therefore, the front-facing stick smash relies on an entirely different physical mechanism called initial muscle velocity.
Initial muscle velocity.
Yeah.
Okay, so we aren't using the body as a catapult anymore.
No, absolutely not. Instead of a catapult, you are creating a whip.
A whip. Okay, paint me a picture.
You use your locked elbow as a physical, rigid fulcrum. By stabilizing the upper arm, you isolate and unleash the rotational acceleration of the forearm and the explosive twitch muscle contraction of the fingers.
So if the full smash is throwing a heavy shot put, how should we visualize the stick smash?
The source material offers a highly relatable analogy here. It compares it to swatting a fly or flicking your finger against a surface.
Oh, like flicking a crumb off the table.
Exactly. If you want to flick a small crumb off a table with your middle finger, you don't wind up your shoulder, twist your hips, and throw your entire body weight behind it.
No, of course not. You just press your thumb and middle finger together to build tension, and you just let it snap.
That's the core principle. You create a rigid base, in that case, your hand, and you release tension in a tiny, highly localized area.
Oh, I see.
In the front-facing stick smash, your shoulder and upper arm become that immovable, rigid base. They lock into place. And your forearm and fingers execute the flick.
That makes total sense.
And because the joints and muscle groups involved are much smaller, their potential for rapid acceleration is significantly higher than that of your hips or your torso.
Okay, I'm following the physics here. Time dictates posture. If you have time, you turn and use the massive gravity moment of the big muscles.
Right. The shot put.
If you have zero time, you face forward, lock the big joints, and snap the small ones for that initial muscle velocity.
The fly swatter.
It's a really elegant equation.
It is.
But here's the problem. If a front-facing stick smash is so mathematically sound and incredibly fast, why does it feel so terrible for the average player?
Oh, it feels awful.
Right. If I try to hit a shuttle facing perfectly forward, it feels awkward, weak, and honestly a bit dangerous for my arm. And the text actually validates this, right? It says this isn't just in the amateur's head.
It is entirely validated. The text addresses this direct user feedback, the feeling that I only hit well when I turn sideways. And it reveals that there is a profound underlying anatomical reality to this.
Okay, let's get into it.
To understand why hitting front-facing feels terrible, we have to look at the hidden architecture of the joint space, specifically something the text refers to as spatial alignment.
This brings us to the concept of the virtual front hit point. And I want to make sure we really break this down for everyone listening because this totally changed how I think about movement.
It's a game changer. Let's do a physical visualization.
Okay, I'm ready.
If you're listening, try to imagine this. You are standing completely front-facing. Your chest is squared to a wall in front of you.
Right to the wall. Got it.
Now imagine an object is flying toward you, high up, but it passes just slightly behind your head. If you keep your chest totally square to the wall and you reach your right arm up and try to swing forward to hit that object, what is actually happening inside your shoulder joint?
Oh, man. You are basically creating an anatomical traffic jam.
Exactly. Let's look at the humerus, your upper arm bone, where it meets the shoulder socket. When you reach up and backward while your chest is facing forward, you are forcing that bone backward past the natural frontal plane of your body.
You're practically bending the hinge backward.
Yes, and then from that maximally stretched, vulnerable position, you are asking those muscles to violently accelerate the arm forward.
That sounds like a recipe for a tear.
It is. You are pushing the shoulder joint to its absolute mechanical limit. The bones, the bursa, the synovial fluid, and the ligaments of the rotator cuff are literally being compressed together.
Ouch.
You have zero mechanical leverage, you have no space to build momentum, and you are subjecting the joint to a massive, potentially damaging shear force.
It feels restrictive just sitting here imagining it. But now, let's look at the solution the body naturally craves. If that same object is slightly behind your head, and instead of staying square, you just pivot your feet and turn your left shoulder toward the wall, what happens to your right shoulder?
Well, by simply rotating your torso sideways, you physically translate your right shoulder joint backward in three-dimensional space by roughly 30 centimeters.
30 centimeters, that's a full foot of empty space that just materialized out of nowhere.
It is a massive geometric shift. You haven't altered the physical location of the shuttle in the air at all.
Right, the shuttle is still in the same spot.
But by changing your body's orientation, you have artificially created a virtual hit point. Relative to your chest, that shuttle is now situated comfortably in front of you.
Yeah.
You have given your arm a runway. The racket now has 30 centimeters of space to accelerate and build velocity before it makes contact.
And the shoulder is safe.
Exactly. Your shoulder is no longer impinged. It is operating within its most efficient, natural range of motion.
So when an intermediate player says, I have to turn sideways to generate power, what their anatomy is actually screaming is, I have to turn sideways so I don't shred my rotator cuff, trying to hit something that got behind my center of mass.
That is the exact biological translation. The body intuitively solves a complex spatial geometry problem to protect itself.
That is brilliant.
But there is a second layer to why the front-facing posture feels so weak for amateurs, and it ties back to our fly swatter versus shot put discussion.
Okay, the big muscles.
Right. As players develop, they build deep neurological dependencies on their large muscle groups. They trust the power of their chest, their core, and their hip rotation.
Yeah, they want that heavy heave. They want to feel the weight of the shot in their whole body.
And when you force them to maintain a front-facing posture, you effectively neutralize those large muscles. You physically cannot execute a massive hip rotation if your chest is already square to the target.
You're already rotated.
Exactly. So if the player's smaller mechanisms, the pronation of the forearm and the explosive pinch of the fingers, have not been independently isolated and trained to an elite level, the strike will be powerless.
Wow.
They're attempting to fire a cannon, but they've been stripped of the gunpowder and handed a rubber band.
Okay, I'm tracking this perfectly. We turn sideways to protect the shoulder joint and to access the big, comforting muscles.
Correct.
But wait, we established earlier that in high-speed rallies, the active stick smash happens because we don't have time to turn sideways.
Right, the time constraint.
So if an amateur is playing and their body desperately wants to prep sideways for comfort, but the shuttle is coming too fast, what happens in that fraction of a second? The text outlines this phenomenon, and it's almost like a neurological magic trick.
It really is a fascinating look into the brain's time lag illusion. When a player has only a fraction of a second to react, their central nervous system will still instinctively initiate that sideways preparation.
Because it wants to be safe.
Because, as we've detailed, that is the pathway associated with safety, comfort, and power.
So the brain basically says, incoming threat, pull the shoulder back, get to the safe zone.
Precisely. They begin to draw the shoulder backward. But here is the biological limitation. A full physical rotation into a sideways stance, followed by the forward swing, requires a measurable amount of time.
How much time are we talking?
In biomechanical terms, it takes roughly 0.2 to 0.3 seconds to execute that full sequence.
And in a flat, fast exchange,
0.3 seconds is a luxury you simply do not have.
the shuttle is already there. It's past you.
Right. So, at the exact microsecond the strike must happen, the body's autonomic systems realize the timeline has collapsed.
Panic mode.
Exactly. To actually make contact with the shuttle, the body has to frantically abort the preparation and untwist itself. So, at the precise moment of impact, the player has inadvertently squared up.
Wow.
They are hitting the shuttle in a half sideways or almost entirely front-facing posture.
But if you ask them right after the point, they will swear they hit it perfectly sideways, won't they?
Absolutely, because the brain is conflating the subjective memory of the preparation with the objective reality of the execution.
A bit crazy.
The player consciously registers the comfortable, powerful sensation of pulling the shoulder back. But the actual forward strike happens in such a microscopic window of time that the conscious brain fails to update the physical model.
It just papers over the rushed untwisting.
Yes. The brain feeds the player a narrative that says, you executed the sideways form perfectly, even though the biomechanical reality is completely different.
That is wild. Our own nervous system is literally editing the footage in real time to make us feel better about our mechanics.
It's quite the editor.
But it really highlights something profound. The feeling of I must be sideways isn't just some stylistic quirk that a coach yelled at you about. It is a deeply ingrained evolutionary defense mechanism designed to prevent joint shock.
It is the body prioritizing survival over technical perfection.
Okay, so let me just summarize the dilemma so far, make sure we've got it. Time dictates posture.
Correct.
If we have no time, we must hit front-facing using initial muscle velocity, the flies water.
Right.
But hitting front-facing feels terrible because it impinges the shoulder joint and removes our reliance on large muscle groups. So our instinct is to turn sideways to create that 30-centimeter runway and protect the shoulder.
Exactly.
But in reality, we don't have the 0.3 seconds to complete that sideways motion, so we frantically untwist, and our brain just lies to us about the whole thing.
You have perfectly mapped the biomechanical contradiction.
So what is the solution? If turning sideways protects the shoulder and gives us space, but turning forward is necessary to snap the shuttle down quickly, what if we just stay sideways? Like, what if we prepare sideways, but deliberately refuse to untwist during the hit? The source text frames this exact idea as a major technical breakthrough, calling it the intercept smash. And I have to say, looking at the physics, this sounds like the ultimate answer.
The text identifies the intercept smash, or session-way langer in the original terminology, as an advanced professional-grade biomechanical solution.
Okay, how does it work?
It is brilliantly counterintuitive. The protocol is this. You prepare your body completely sideways to the net, but you deliberately and consciously suppress the instinct to rotate your torso forward during the strike.
See, here's where it gets really interesting. Because everything we just talked about regarding the gravity moment, the shot put analogy, the kinetic chain, all of that dictates that rotation is the engine of power.
That's the conventional wisdom.
Right. So if you freeze your hips and freeze your chest, How does the body generate the force required for an elite-level smash?
To demystify this, we have to look closely at the physiological angle and introduce a completely new power source. Let's revisit our anatomical baseline.
Okay.
Facing forward and raising the arm creates impingement. Turning sideways naturally allows the right arm to fall across the chest into an optimal, geometrically unobstructed zone.
Right, the shoulder is safe, it's comfortable.
But the secret to the power lies in what the back muscles are doing. This is the concept of the scapular bow draw.
The scapular bow draw.
Even though you are actively preventing your torso from twisting toward the net, the mere act of holding that sideways preparation posture does something vital. It forcefully retracts your right shoulder blade, your scapula inward, pulling it tightly toward your spine.
So if I'm doing this right now, I'm squeezing the muscles in my upper back together.
Yeah.
Like pinching a pencil between my shoulder blades.
That tension is your new power source. You have abandoned the massive full-body kinetic chain, and instead you have created a highly localized, highly efficient bow draw right in your upper back.
Oh, wow.
You've recruited the rhomboids and the trapezius to act as a coiled spring. Executing the strike no longer requires a massive contortion of the hips. It simply requires establishing the locked elbow as a pivot point in space, releasing that deep scapular tension and allowing the forearm and fingers to violently snap forward.
So the torso remains a totally static object. It's just the shoulder blade releasing its tension and the forearm snapping like a whip.
Exactly. And the source text utilizes a brilliant conceptual model here to explain why the static torso is such an advantage. It introduces the turret concept.
Like on a tank.
Exactly like a military tank. Imagine the heavy body of the tank representing your legs, your core, and your torso acts as a rigid, immovable turret base. It is deeply anchored to the ground. It does not sway, it does not twist.
Got it.
The arm, operating independently above it, acts as the rapid-fire cannon.
I love that. That is a phenomenal visualization.
The biomechanical advantage of the turret concept is absolute stillness. Think about it. When you execute a traditional full smash and hurl your body weight forward, you completely displace your center of mass.
Right, you kind of fly through the air and land a bit off balance.
And it takes valuable milliseconds to recover that balance, arrest your forward momentum, and prepare for the next shot. But with the intercept smash, because the turret base never moved, your center of gravity remains perfectly static.
Zero recovery time.
Zero recovery time. You land with your balance perfectly centered. This allows an elite player to execute rapid, consecutive jump smashes without any delay.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I mean, we are taught from day one to rotate for power. But here, by isolating the variables and literally refusing to rotate, you unlock superior precision.
Absolutely.
You can achieve steeper trajectories because you are snapping downward from a perfectly stable, unmoving base. You sacrifice the absolute brute force of throwing a shot put, and in exchange, you gain the repeatable, rapid-fire lethality of an anchored cannon.
If we look at the underlying principle, it really illuminates the immense value of architectural rigidity in high-performance movement.
Architectural rigidity.
Right. A twisting, rotating torso is a massive, complex variable that introduces a ton of instability. When you eliminate that noise, you increase the purity, the efficiency, and the transfer of power directly through the smaller joints.
It honestly sounds invincible. I mean, you protect the shoulder from impingement, you achieve rapid-fire speed, and you maintain perfect balance. But physics always demands a toll, right?
Always.
The source material outlines a very strict physical red line for this technique. Because if staying sideways is the ultimate solution, there must be a parameter where it suddenly fails.
The physics of the human body are bound by strict limits. The text defines an absolute golden rule for the intercept smash, which is rooted in what anatomists call the scapular plane.
The scapular plane.
The rigid turret technique is only effective, and more importantly, it is only physically safe if your elbow and the point of contact with the shuttle remain strictly in front of your torso's plane.
Okay, let's make sure we can visualize this. How do we define in front if I'm standing sideways?
Imagine you're sitting in a car, gripping the steering wheel.
Okay, 10 and 2.
Your hands and arms are operating within the scapular plane roughly 30 to 45 degrees forward of the flat plane of your chest. This is where your shoulder joint is the most stable and the most powerful.
Got it.
In the intercept smash, even though your chest is pointing at the sidewall, the shuttle must be struck within that steering wheel zone relative to your chest.
So as long as the shuttle is in that zone, the scapular bow draw works and my shoulder is happy.
Yes.
But what happens if my opponent hits a high, deep clear and the Shuttle travels completely behind my right shoulder before I can hit it.
If you attempt to maintain your rigid sideways turret posture in that scenario, you are forced to reach your arm backward, behind the plane of your back, to make contact. And we are immediately thrown back into the anatomical nightmare.
Right, because now I'm reaching behind myself while my body is locked. I'm squishing the rotator cuff all over again.
You are subjecting the joint to severe impingement. The text is totally unambiguous about this red line. If the shuttle passes behind the plane of your shoulder, the no rotation rule must be instantly aborted.
You have to bail out.
You have no choice but to re-engage the full kinetic chain and violently rotate your torso to wrestle your chest forward, thereby putting the contact point back in front of your body.
Just to save your arm.
Exactly. Failing to do so invites catastrophic shoulder injury.
So what this really tells us is that the debate isn't just a simple binary choice between sideways or front-facing. It's entirely about the geometric relationship between the elbow and the chest.
That is the core revelation of this whole section. All the complex footwork patterns, all the rules about body orientation we memorize, they are ultimately just biological delivery systems. Their sole purpose is to transport the elbow into a safe, geometrically viable position relative to the incoming projectile.
That connects so many dots. But wait, let's go back to the front-facing problem for a second. Earlier, we noted that when amateurs are forced to hit completely front-facing, it feels pathetic. The text calls it the mosquito-catching phenomenon.
A very apt description.
If the pros are occasionally forced to hit front-facing in ultra-fast rallies, how do they overcome that mosquito-catching weakness? How do they generate power without a runway?
To understand the pro solution, we really have to look at why the amateur fails. The mosquito-catching sensation occurs for two distinct biomechanical reasons when amateurs square up without a staggered stance.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is the total absence of a swing stroke. Because the amateur subconsciously fears impinging their shoulder, they refuse to bring the racket back. They start with the racket already high, and they simply poke forward.
Oh, I see.
Zero backswing space means zero time to build acceleration.
It's like trying to punch someone when your fist is already touching their nose. There's no force. What's the second reason?
The second is the absence of a physical break.
A break.
Yes. If you are standing with your feet parallel, completely facing your target, and you violently swing your arm forward and downward, the sheer kinetic energy and downward momentum of that arm will physically pull your upper body forward.
You'll literally tip over.
You will. You destroy your own equilibrium because you lack a structural anchor to counteract that forward energy. You cannot transfer power into the shuttle if your own base is collapsing.
So how do elite players hit completely front-on, hovering in midair, without tipping forward or losing power?
They utilize a highly demanding physical adaptation. First, to solve the backswing problem, they push their elbows incredibly far forward, extending them way out in front of their face.
Wait, they reach forward before they swing?
Yes. This artificial extension creates a small but vital pocket of backswing space entirely in front of their body.
They stretch the whole mechanism forward to give themselves a tiny runway.
Precisely. But the real secret lies in how they create a break. While suspended in midair, facing perfectly forward, they maximally tense their entire core.
Like bracing for a punch.
Even more intense. They flex their rectus abdominis and obliques so violently that their torso transforms into an immovable slab of concrete.
They're flexing just to stop their own momentum.
They are generating architectural rigidity out of thin air using pure muscle tension. This extreme core rigidity acts as the anchor. When the arm violently snaps forward, the solid core prevents the torso from collapsing forward, providing the stable base necessary to transfer all that energy directly into the forearm snap.
That is incredible. So even when they break the fundamental rule and face completely forward, they are internally recreating the exact same turret stability we discussed with the intercept smash.
Exactly.
They're just substituting bone alignment with raw, immense core strength.
They intuitively understand that the fundamental physical equation for power requires a rigid base. They just manipulate different physiological variables to satisfy it.
Okay, we have thoroughly decoded the backcourt. I feel like we understand the spatial puzzles, the brain's illusions, the safety of the side stance, and the absolute necessity of architectural rigidity.
It's a lot of mechanics to visualize.
But the source text doesn't let us rest there. It takes these exact same physical instincts, our body's deep, subconscious desire to protect the shoulder and find a comfortable swing path, and applies them to the front of the court, right at the net.
This is where things get really treacherous.
Right. It reveals that the very instinct that saves us in the backcourt becomes a fatal tactical trap at the net.
This section of the analysis is arguably the most practical, as it highlights a direct conflict between anatomical comfort and tactical execution. It examines a highly specific, very common user instinct during a net kill or a put away.
Right, a net kill. For anyone who doesn't play, this is when the shuttle pops up loosely, just inches above the net tape, and you rush in to aggressively smash it straight down into the opponent's floor.
The most satisfying shot in the game.
Oh, absolutely. It's entirely offensive. But the text observes a fascinating physiological phenomenon here. When an amateur or intermediate player rushes the net to execute this strike, they have an overwhelming, almost involuntary instinct to step their right foot, their dominant foot, backward, placing it slightly behind their left foot at the exact moment of the swing.
It's almost a reflex.
They naturally pull back into a slight sideways stance. And I have to confess, I do this. When I want to absolutely crush a loose shot at the net, I'll naturally step my racket foot back. It feels like I'm loading up my power. It feels incredibly natural. Why does it feel so good if the text calls it a trap?
It feels natural because your nervous system is incredibly good at learning lessons. Think back to our discussion on the virtual front hit point in the backcourt.
Oh, the 30-centimeter runway.
Exactly. By stepping your right foot backward at the net, you instantly rotate your torso slightly sideways. This single movement immediately opens up a massive volume of swing space for your right arm.
It allows my elbow to drop right into that safe, comfortable geometric power zone in front of my chest.
You've got it. It is the exact same shoulder-saving physics you employ for a heavy backcourt smash. You are instinctively, artificially creating space so you don't impinge your shoulder joint by reaching awkwardly forward over the net.
So my body is being incredibly smart, anatomically speaking.
Anatomically, yes, it's a genius move, but tactically, it is devastating. The text systematically deconstructs why this comfortable habit is a catastrophic error, specifically in the fast-paced environment of doubles.
Hit me. What's the bad news?
It identifies two fatal flaws in this movement pattern. The first is the reach loss.
The reach loss, okay.
The environment at the net is dictated by millimeters and milliseconds. When you step your right foot backward to create that comfortable swing space, you are physically translating your center of mass and consequently your right shoulder backward away from the net.
Oh, I see where this is going.
The text calculates that this defensive footwork pulls your potential contact point back by nearly half a meter compared to aggressively lunging with the right foot forward.
Half a meter. That's like almost 20 inches of reach. Just sacrifice for comfort.
And in the context of a dropping object, half a meter is an absolute eternity. Gravity is constantly accelerating the shuttle downward. If you surrender half a meter of forward reach, the shuttle has significantly more time to fall before it enters your retracted hitting zone.
Oh man, I see the geometry now. A shuttle that I could have struck cleanly at the very apex of its arc, high above the net,
Has now dropped to a height that is level with or even below the top of the net tape by the time it reaches you.
That's agonizing.
The geometry of the court now entirely dictates your options. You can no longer execute a steep downward strike. You are physically forced to hit flat, which risks going out of bounds, or hit upward into a defensive net lift, entirely surrendering your attack. You traded lethal positioning for shoulder comfort.
That makes painful mathematical sense. I give up space, the shuttle drops, and I lose the advantage entirely. Okay, what is fatal flaw number 2?
The broken chain. The fundamental mechanics of moving forward, especially aggressively rushing the net, require your dominant foot to be extended out in front.
Like a lunge.
Yes. This front foot serves two vital mechanical functions. First, it acts as a deceleration system, absorbing your forward momentum and preventing you from crashing bodily into the net. Second, it acts as a compressed spring, a launch pad that propels you backward to recover your position in the center of the court.
It's the anchor of the kinetic chain.
Precisely. If your right foot is trapped behind your left foot because you prioritized a comfortable swing, your horizontal momentum is completely unmanaged. You're off balance. More critically, your recovery pathway is destroyed.
Because my weight is falling backward.
Exactly. If your opponent somehow manages to block your shot to the opposite corner, you are structurally cemented to the floor. Your launch pad is positioned behind your center of gravity. You cannot push off. Your movement chain has been entirely severed.
So the body's brilliant subconscious instinct to protect the shoulder joint from impingement, using the exact mechanics it successfully learned in the backcourt, is actually robbing the player of half a meter of reach and entirely disabling their ability to move to the next shot.
It is a perfect example of a biological paradox. The nervous system prioritizes immediate local joint comfort over holistic tactical advantage.
So how do we negotiate this? I mean, I can't just command my body to ignore pain and jam my shoulder joint. Reaching fully forward with the right foot and trying to swing violently downward feels structurally wrong.
And you shouldn't do it, it will cause injury. This brings us to the professional paradox outlined in the text. The lower body must unconditionally obey the tactical rule of right foot forward to maximize reach and preserve the movement chain.
Non-negotiable.
Right. However, the upper body fundamentally still requires the geometric space of a sideways stance to execute a powerful swing without impingement. The solution requires a complete biomechanical decoupling of the upper and lower body.
Which sounds physically impossible. I mean, try it right now. If I lunge deeply with my right foot forward, my right hip is thrust forward. If my right hip is forward, my right chest is pulled forward.
They are attached, yes.
Right. So how can I keep the right foot aggressively anchored in front, maximizing my reach, while simultaneously creating the shoulder space of a side stance? The source text presents a solution here that basically reads like a biological cheat code.
It is arguably the defining technical hallmark of elite net play. The text introduces the concept of core compression, or what it calls folding the body. In the original language, this technique is referred to as zaitium shifu. It is an incredibly elegant biomechanical solution to this exact paradox.
Okay, we need to break this down meticulously. To understand the cure, let's revisit the exact problem one more time. When we lunge forward at the net with our right foot extended, why does the shoulder jam when we try to swing?
It is a conflict of directional momentum. Rushing the net generates immense horizontal momentum. Your entire body mass is moving rapidly forward.
Like a sprinter.
Yes. If you simply extend your arm and attempt to swing forward to strike the shuttle, you compound the problem. Your arm swing adds further horizontal force to a body already traveling horizontally.
Double the forward energy.
The typical outcome is striking the shuttle too flat, driving it completely out of bounds. Alternatively, players attempt to violently snap their wrist downward to compensate, but their immense forward momentum carries their arm through the stroke and straight into the net, resulting in a fault.
You're essentially a runaway train, and swinging your arm just derails you faster. It's totally chaotic.
Exactly. So how does core compression resolve this chaos? The mechanism activates at the exact split-second moment before impact. As the player lunges, fully extending the right foot forward to maximize reach, they execute a violent, sudden contraction of their abdominal muscles.
A crunch.
Yes, they literally fold their torso inward, rapidly driving their chest downward toward their front knee.
So they perform a mid-air crunch. What does that specific movement do to all that runaway horizontal momentum?
It triggers a massive physical conversion. This abrupt core contraction instantly lowers the upper body's center of mass by roughly 10 centimeters. Mechanically, this action takes that uncontrollable horizontal forward momentum and forcibly redirects it, converting it into intense vertical downward pressure.
Whoa, let me make sure I grasp this. Instead of the kinetic energy flowing horizontally through the shuttle toward the back line, the energy is redirected to drop vertically down onto the shuttle.
That is the exact mechanism. It caps the shuttle, driving it into the opponent's floor. The player no longer needs to rely on an exaggerated, injury-prone wrist snap to generate a steep angle.
That is so smart.
The rapid downward displacement of the entire upper torso's mass provides more than enough force to spike the shuttle downwards.
That brilliantly solves the flat-heading problem. But what about the runaway train aspect? How does this stop them from crashing into the net?
The physical fold acts as an ultimate natural emergency brake. Biomechanically, your body must maintain its center of mass to stay upright. When you violently fold your upper chest forward and down, your pelvis and lower body are instinctively forced to hinge and anchor backward to counterbalance the shift in weight.
Oh, it's like a seesaw. If the heavy top half drops forward, the bottom half has to push backward to keep the whole structure from falling over.
Yes. This involuntary counterbalance acts as an instantaneous braking system. It violently arrests your horizontal momentum, stopping your arm from following through into the net tape. You strike the shuttle cleanly, and your physical mass halts on a dime.
This is genuinely incredible. But wait, there's one piece of the puzzle left. My right foot is still out in front. My reach is maximized. My momentum is controlled. But earlier we established that this forward posture squishes the shoulder joint if we swing. How does doing a crunch fix the shoulder impingement?
This is where the biomechanics become truly beautiful. By violently compressing the core and simultaneously allowing the right side of the racket side to dip slightly inward, the player physically manipulates the architecture of their shoulder socket.
Wait, how?
They are pushing the shoulder joint forward and slightly down relative to their spine.
Let me physically try this. Okay, I'm lunging,
Yeah.
right foot is out. Now I crunch my abs hard and drop my right chest inward.
Pay attention to the space immediately in front of your shoulder. What happened to it?
The space, it completely opened up. Because my chest is hollowed out and angled down, my arm suddenly has a massive pocket of empty room to swing across the front of my body. It's totally unobstructed.
Exactly. The action of folding the core magically recreates the exact same comfortable, geometrically spacious power zone for the arm as stepping backward did. You hollow out the front of your body, allowing the arm to pass through safely. But you have achieved this anatomical comfort while keeping your right foot aggressively planted in the front, preserving your maximum reach and maintaining your compressed launch pad for the next movement.
So instead of surrendering half a meter of reach to make room for your arm, you are literally folding your torso out of the way to manufacture a pocket of space. And simultaneously, you're using your abs to convert horizontal speed into a vertical spike while also acting as an emergency brake.
What is truly fascinating here is the sheer, unbelievable efficiency of the human body when the mechanics are optimized.
It's awe-inspiring.
The amateur relies on their vulnerable extremities, their arm and their wrist, to manage immense force and secure the point at the net. The elite player utilizes the heaviest, most robust structure of their body, the core mass, to achieve maximum lethality while ensuring maximum physiological safety.
It's like they've discovered a glitch in the physics engine of reality.
Yeah.
They get the reach advantage of the front stance, combined with the power and safety of the side stance, simply by executing a precisely timed compression.
It's biomechanical perfection.
So what does this all mean for us? If we look back at the exhaustive journey we just took through this source text, it is staggering. We started with the jarring realization that our own brains actively edit our perception of our posture.
Right, making us believe we are fully sideways during a rapid stick smash when we are actually facing forward, simply to keep us feeling secure.
We progressed from that neurological illusion to uncovering the hidden architecture of power generation. We examined how establishing the rigid turret of the intercept smash allows for explosive repetitive force without the delay of a full torso rotation.
Provided we strictly obey the anatomical limits of the scapular plane, of course.
Right, keep the elbow in front of the chest or risk destroying the rotator cuff. And then we applied those same principles of spatial geometry to the net, exposing the dangerous trap of physical comfort.
The right foot back instinct.
Yeah, we saw how the natural instinct to step the dominant foot back feels great for the shoulder, but mathematically ruins your reach and severs your kinetic movement chain. And finally, we decoded the ultimate physiological solution: core compression. Folding the torso to artificially manufacture space, redirect horizontal momentum into a downward spike, and brake instantly.
And the overarching takeaway for the listener here is that an understanding of biomechanics only truly gains value when applied to observation and practice.
Very true.
The next time you watch a high-speed athletic event, whether it's badminton, tennis, volleyball, or even martial arts, so the next time you engage in one yourself, try to shift your focus. Don't just watch the racket or the ball or the extension of the arms.
Look deeper.
Look at the core. Look at the subtle spatial alignments of the hips and the shoulders. Ask yourself, what hidden negotiations is the body making in this exact microsecond to create space, generate leverage, and protect itself from the violent forces it is unleashing?
It changes the entire paradigm of how you view movement. It's no longer just an architectural blueprint. It's a constant, high-speed, dynamic negotiation between the desire for power and the absolute necessity of self-preservation.
Spot on.
Which leaves me with a thought I want to pass on to you, the listener, as we wrap up today's deep dive. If our bodies possess this incredible ability to instinctively alter our techniques, to protect our joints, like naturally stepping backward at the net to save the shoulder, even when it ruins our tactical advantage, how many other quote-unquote bad habits in our daily lives are actually protective mechanisms?
That is a profound angle to consider.
Think about your posture right now as you listen to this. Or consider the way you physically brace yourself during a stressful workflow at your desk. How many of the physical quirks we constantly try to correct or feel guilty about are actually just our biology or our psychology, secretly contorting itself to protect us from an invisible strain we aren't even consciously aware of?
That's something to chew on.
Think about that the next time you catch yourself slouching in your chair.
or avoiding a certain repetitive movement. Maybe you aren't just being lazy. Maybe your body is just quietly trying to create its own virtual hit point to keep you safe. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly deep dive. We will be back soon to uncover more hidden mechanics and invisible logic in the world around us. Until then, keep questioning the blueprint.